I think we have quite a good amount of people join, Swamy, close to 66. I think we can quickly start the discussion, right? In the interest of time, I do understand that it's late in the evening in the US, and really appreciate your time and effort, Swamy. Okay, so hi everyone, Rakesh Darge from Mumbai, India, Dynamics 365 and Power Community User Group. And welcome to our second edition of Microsoft Biz Apps Bootcamp 2.0 2022. And I'm really excited our guest today. We have a Swamy Narayan, General Manager, Dynamics 365 Customer Experience Programs at Fast Track. In a nutshell, a Fast Track program lead, right? So, but before we get into a discussion, I will give you my standard announcement or a the reminder that this user group is focused on knowledge sharing and related topic to a Dynamics 365 Power Platform, and but obvious by the community and for the community, right? So I do encourage you to join our user group by logging into community.dynamics.com, as I mentioned in the previous slide, and try to select the user group and sign up for that. We do have a LinkedIn and Facebook page as well. Okay, and special thanks to those who registered for these 2 days of event, and really appreciate your time. So with that, out of the way, I'm super excited to introduce Swamy Narayan, a man who might not need any introduction, a general manager of Dynamics 365 customer experience and program at Microsoft. Swamy, thanks for joining us, Swamy.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rakesh, and the rest of the community members here. This is a noble cause. Knowledge sharing is the most important thing we all can do. And in an ever-changing world, I think it's even more important. The velocity at which changes happen, whether it's technology or product and the innovation, it's a lot more important for us. And I appreciate every one of you joining and giving me an opportunity to share my experience and my view of things. As Rakesh said, I've been with Microsoft for 15 years now. I've been in the product development, specifically in the finance and procurement area. As we launched the cloud services, I took this role where become the bridge between the engineering team and customers and partners. And as Rakesh said, our job is to kind of think about it in 3 ways. One is to give you visibility into product roadmap and capabilities, give you guidance in terms of the product capabilities, best practices, and how to do it. As we work with you and your customers to implement the Dynamics 365, we are going to have a lot of learnings. Bring that feedback back into the product team and kind of continue that cycle. That's the feedback loop we drive. So I'm excited to be here. I'm going to approach it today's session in 3 or 4 different topics. One, I'm going to give a little bit of a vision of what is business applications vision for our product in the coming years, what has changed. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how it manifests itself into our product capabilities, some of the features that we are building and how we're doing. Then I'm going to take that into the next level in terms of, this topic really about deliver customer success through success by design. How do you incorporate these things into your implementation practices? And then I'll finally talk about the take questions and answers. I think Rakesh has given us 5 questions. I'll start with that. If there is time, we'll take some additional questions from the audience, if that's what you want to do, Rakesh. If that sounds good to you, then let's get started.
Yeah, Swamy, sounds good. So, Swamy, there is a lot to talk about success by design, right? And how it helps customers around the world with their implementations. And I want to spiral out from that point to understand your thought on this, Swamy.
Sure. I will cover those things as well. I wanted to give you kind of the vision part of it. How do we take it and how do you bring it into the implementation side, right? It's a product is a life cycle. If you remember, it's a feedback loop, the product feedback loop, customer feedback loop. So it's important for us to think about all the cycles that we need to complete. And that's how I'm going to approach it. So I'll start with, first of all, thanking every one of you, especially the folks in India. This is the 75th Independence Celebration anniversary. So I want a special thanks to all the Indian colleagues and friends in India. I want to play a small video. We just did a customer advisory board that kind of talks about what is Dynamics 365. How do we need to think about in the new world? It is not the traditional ERP product that we all have been work, right? Several of us have worked in this business for a long time. Several of us have worked in the CRM business for a long time. But it's about time for us to think differently about it. So I hope this video helps you think along those lines. Hopefully that gave you a glimpse and resonates well with all of you guys, especially given the economic conditions and things that are happening in the technology world. We are all expected to deliver more with less. And the things you want, hopefully you caught up there is, we're not thinking this just as a business application. It's really intelligent business application that brings transformation as well as collaborations into your business application world. Hopefully a lot of you guys can connect to this thing. There is a shift happening in the business world, right? If you look into the left side of it, if you have been in this business, this is what we kind of delivered in the last decade or so. Every company has become a software company. Pretty much its ingredient. The transformation changes that we expect to see in the industries has happened, whether you look at Airbnb, whether you look at Uber, or even a grocery store you go to, all of them have technology, all of them have some kind of a software development in built in that one. It's almost impossible for us to think whether it's a technology company or it's a services company, right? But what is going to happen in the next several years or the coming years is with the technology changes we are seeing, all of these companies will become AI companies, right? Artificial intelligence is going to change how we deliver the business processes, how we interact with the customer, how we build the product, including software products, right? So it's the change is going to happen at a extensively fast pace, and it becomes natural, and everyone expects that this is what I should be expecting from any software or any product that you use. That's the change that we have to be prepared for. How does that translate into business application? It's easy for us to today think about this in the products that we use, including even office product, right? It happens naturally for us. But how do you take that into business processes? That's the next evolution or the revolution that's going to happen in the software industry. That's what we are working towards, right? So let me tell you what kind of pillars we look at it at Microsoft, especially in the business application. There are three things we are focused around. Clearly data. The second one is AI, and the third one is collaboration. None of them are new terms. They have all been there for a long time. This is what you think, is already built on. But let's just dig deeper into understand what does that mean and how it changes our thought process. If you think from a data point of view, right? Long time ago, a lot of people had no data. There was no data strategy at all. Today, pretty much every business knows, have enough data. They've accumulated enough data. Even think about, you ask them how many customers, what kind of behavior they have that data, right? Including us. If you think about Dynamics 365 from an on-premises to the cloud world, today we have so much data that we never had in the on-premises world. That is the big difference, from a poor data environment to a very rich data environment. But what do you do with that data is the difference. It's not just having the data. How do you infer that data and take it into next level is the change. So this is where the big data comes, changes into big AI. Every one of that experience that we talk about is not just using the data. It's not just the action. It's the recommendation that it's going to make to help you, convert the data you have into intelligence that you will convert it. And today, a lot of us think about action as a human-driven application, right? If you want to create a PO, you go to the application and say, oh, I have to create a PO. What we think about is in the future is you don't initiate that one. The actually system tells you, oh, you have to do this. Today, you see this in Outlook. It tells you, hey, maybe it's not the time to send an email because it's an off time for the recipient. You should think about sending it tomorrow. And that type of thought process will come to business application. The system will tell you what you need to do. You probably have seen the work we have done in the Power Automate, right? This is where I talked about, even the software development processes will change. Hopefully some of you at least have used the Copilot in Power Automate. Instead of me writing the code, all I have to do is in a natural language express what I'm trying to do. The software will be written for me automatically. If you have read a book, something called The 5 Forces That Transforms the World, there is a stage called where the software gets replicated at zero cost in zero time. We are almost there with this GPT-3, with the large language models that is bringing all kinds of natural models in a simultaneous fashion. The process thinking and the way we can do things are different. Today, you can go to DALL-E and say, hey, I want a picture of something that I can imagine. The model will come and work and say, hey, here are the 5 different options you can try. that type of a thinking will come to business applications. So that's the shift. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but that's the shift we have to be prepared for. That's the thought process we need to bring into the business application implementations as well, and to the customer. I'll take a few examples to show you how that is already transforming some of the ways we do. I'm going to talk about our digital contact center platform. I know, I'm sure all of you have worked on these things. Today, the customers or the end users' experiences are way different. There are a multitude of channels. It could be a voice, it could be WhatsApp, it could be web, it could be email, all of those things. That's where they want to interact with whoever the behind the scenes, the service provider or the product provider is. But once it's initiated, there's a lot of things that happens before it reaches the actual human being that's going to provide the service. In most of these cases, our ideal scenario is you want to deflect those things through a self-help. This is where the AI is going to suggest things. And if that doesn't happen, it gets to an service agent who is going to get suggestion from the application to say, hey, here are the options, that here are the ways you can think about it. So AI gets embedded in every step of the process to say, here is how we can intelligently handle these scenarios and how we can make the experience better. This changes the business in places where you wouldn't think of. I can't think of, a government place taking advantage of these things to make a huge difference. I'm going to show an example of that just happened recently at IRS. All of you know, in US, all of us have to file taxes. Getting a case handled through them is a long process. In the old world, I would call a number, I would expect somebody to pick on the other side. At best, my intelligence was, hey, I have 5 options I pick, and that will take. And if I get bored, I press the 0 and I get talk to a human being. But today it happens many other ways. This is a classic example where the deputy commissioner calls out that this is a nuanced implementation where in this 160 years, this is the first time AI has solved a customer case. So that's the type of experience our customers are experiencing and their customers are expecting, right? That's what is important. Similarly, if you think about the supply chain management, a lot of us have worked in the traditional, the score model from, receiving to delivery, all of those things. That thing is standard. That's going to continue to evolve. But what changes is how do we manage the supply chain in that process? How do we understand the insight? How do we make the order management intelligent? We just launched the Microsoft Supply Chain Platform that includes the Supply Chain Center. Specifically, the product that's available today is the Intelligent Order Management. That's going to tell you what are the best way to fulfill an order, which distribution center is the optimal one based on the customer location, preferences, and other things. And if should there be an event that might be impacting that, it will suggest you maybe you should change that part, or you should change the delivery provider because the delivery provider X may have a problem or some other challenges. So that level of intelligence is going to be natively built into the product that allows you to change the behavior. Maybe you're wondering why I'm saying all these things, right? But let's just take into implementation, because this is where the success by design comes, and I'll talk about why we need to be understanding and aware of these changes that are happening and how we need to incorporate that into our conversation to our customers and prospects. A lot of you think of us as Fast Track. Yes, Fast Track is one of the program. The team I lead covers entire customer experience journey. The biggest thing that we are aspiring is what I put it on the right-hand side, which is the advocate phase. Basically, we want to convert every customer we deal with to be an advocate of the Dynamics 365 product. That's the ultimate goal. That doesn't happen, just by saying it. It starts all the way from the beginning. So the team that I lead have lots of focus starting from discover, where all the product informations are created by us. The implementation guide, hopefully all of you have seen that, is created by so that the prospect can understand what capabilities exist, what kind of information that Microsoft provides that gives them the confidence to say Dynamics should be a candidate in their evaluation. Then during the acquire phase, we do a lot of things with our pre-sales team to make sure that if a customer has concerns about our product roadmap or scalability, we actually provide the proof of concept. We provide the scalability benchmarks to make sure that the customer gets the confidence that they have made the right choice in terms of evaluation selection. Then comes the actual post-sales. This is where implement Fast Track is the key player. This is where most of our resources spend time, and most of our time spent with the customers to make sure that the implementation goes as expected. There are a few things that we focus on. One is primarily what we call time to value. Unlike in the on-premises world, there is a huge capital investment. The cloud world, they don't have a lot of capital outlay. It's mostly about a subscription they can decide to turn off. So reducing the time it takes to implement so that they can realize the value is the most important thing. So how can we contribute to that by providing process guidance, providing tools, and providing visibility and other advisory services to make that happen. So that's kind of what we focus on. The next thing is once you get them live, that's not sufficient. We really think about how do we make them a happy customer. We look at Net Promoter Score to say, hey, this is what makes the difference in terms of their happiness, how they're using the product, how can they increase the product usage. So those are the other things we look at it. The next thing is we also do the support experience. It's not provided to all customers, it's provided to select customers. Again, the intent behind all of these things is the engineering team that creates the product should provide the guidance to on best practices to implement, best practices to provide the support. In case of implementation, we rely on partners and all the community members like you to go and make that happen with the customers. In case of support, we take that best practices and give it to our support team so that we can scale to larger customer base. Then finally, you take all of this and convert the customer into an advocate and become a customer story. So you have seen all of those things. Let me just share some of the metrics in terms of what we do in a typical year. Just in terms of fast track, we do 1,000+ customers in a year and 600+ go lives across the team. We have a team of 90 people. To be able to do that, we need all the help from community members like you, as well as a great collaboration with your team so that we are jointly delivering success to our mutual customers. That's the most important thing. And we have done 30+ fast track driven customer success stories. We used to tend to do a lot of marketing driven customer stories. What we have taken an approach is, in these cases, we have to highlight what's the business value we delivered. Not just that, hey, we delivered an ERP implementation that's successful or a CRM implementation that just went live on time, on budget. But what was the transformation value we brought to the customer? That's what we are trying to say that. Now let me get into the topic about, I said all of those things. How do you bring this into your success by design? Right? So I think this is a picture everybody is aware of. What we think about any project goes through 4 phases. There's an initiation phase where you have done the sale, but you have to work with the project team within the customer side to understand how they are set up to deliver the project. And what we do with that at that phase is to make sure that there is a contract between partner and the customer. Our team understands those scope, the terms and conditions that you have set up, and the outline in terms of approach you have taken. Once we have that one, we'll do the solution blueprint review. I think this is the most important place where we have to think about. Again, we are not doing this as a technology upgrade or just a application replacement project. This is a transformation project where we think about what is the business value they're trying to achieve. What is the transformation they're trying to do? If you're doing A for A replacement, you're not going to realize the value. You're going to get the same thing. It's just a different technology. Hopefully, you're not doing those projects for those reasons. You're really doing it to realize bigger values, take advantage of the innovations we are doing, and take advantage of the technology changes and meet the customer expectations that they have. And then obviously we go through the workshop. If you're depending on what kind of complexity, different set of projects workshops can be done. It could be requirements gathering, it could be a BI strategy, it could be data management, it could be integration, all of the typical things that you do. And then finally, what we think about is go live assessment. This is where it's just not a questionnaire. You might be filling a questionnaire. How do we take that information and kind of use the telemetry that we have? As I said, today we have a lot more data in terms of what exactly being used and how the system health is, and take that information to match it and say, yes, the data behind the scene in the what the system telemetry tells us matches the experiences that you are claiming and you're saying that is happening. And then use that to kind of give you guidance to say, hey, here are the things you could do to make sure that you reduce the risk, you avoid the issues that might be surfaced once you're live. Finally, taking that into go live and then making sure that there's a good hypercare experience. The system is stable even after going live, and it's handling all of the experiences, both from a productivity point of view from the end user, as well as the system availability and performance and other things. So that's kind of the journey we do. If you think about the reason for all of those things, is the goal is to give you early detection so that we can provide the proactive guidance on the best practices and the steps you can take to mitigate. And then by doing all of those things, we can give you predictable success. The real value is if we deliver the success by measuring the business value we delivered and at the outset we established. If we are able to do that, it's called something about a value-based implementation. It is not a scope-based, it's just not a time or budget-based. It's really a value-based implementation. That is the thought process change we are trying to bring. It is not easy because when you have a contract that has to meet some of the time in a dollars and the monetary amount and the timeline amount, you have to do it. But if you set the right expectation upfront, the success by design can help you to say, hey, these are the objectives we are trying to do. How do we get to that one? How do we measure it? How do we benchmark it? That's the conversation you need to have with that. So that's what we are trying to do. And I'll be the first one to acknowledge and tell you it is not easy, but that's the change we need to bring. I'm sure we all have heard the say 50% of the ERP or CRM projects fail. Yes, statistics are all there, but we need to change that to say we can deliver 100% of the project on time, on budget, with a business value. That's what we're trying to do. With that, I'm going to just do a pitch in terms of implementation guide. All of you must have seen this implementation guide. If not, just go use this hyperlink. This is the document we keep updating. My ask to this community is just not using it. Give us feedback, give us ideas and suggestions how we can improve. What would help you to what the objective I said? How do we reduce the time to value? How do we reduce the time to implementation? How can we do that? How can we jointly achieve that? So help us giving us feedback, ideas, so that we can incorporate and we can make your implementations a lot more successful, a lot more cheaper, and a lot more enjoyable, especially in the world where the demand for Dynamics resources are very, very high. If we can save it an hour, we earn an hour by to use that in some other places. So think along those lines. Reach out to us, give us feedback. There are lots of things on the LinkedIn, lots of places where you can reach out to us, or reach out to us using the community portal. We will work through with you to make sure that we continue to improve. Hopefully, you're all watching the Tech Talks we deliver. Again, our objective in the Tech Talk is the same thing as what you guys are doing. How do we take the knowledge we have? How do we think about the product capabilities and bring it into community members? With that, I'm going to move into question and answers. And Rakesh, I have the slide. If you want me to, I can use the questions you have shared. Or if you want to ask the question, I'm perfectly fine whichever way you want to do it, Rakesh.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really helpful. I hope everyone is going to join, because when I try to implement any implementation, it is really, as you mentioned, right? It is not just a lift and shift of existing CRM or ERP. It is some sort of innovation, some sort of additional capability that we're trying to, because we are living cloud world, right? So it's not that easy, and the kind of a guidance that Fast Track team provides, it's really appreciated, because I personally learn a lot before I become a Fast Track recognized architect for FNO this year. So I really appreciate the way you explain. It's really going to help for everyone. I think we have one question posed by Umesh. Umesh and Mukesh, they are the two gentlemen that we identify in the community, and their questions was more related to our topic. So let us go with that topic question first, Swamy, and then maybe there are 3 questions left. Probably I'll continue with that question. Is that okay?
I'm okay. I put the slides in the questions. If you want to pick the question, we'll take that question and then answer it. Or if you have a question on the community, I can take that too.
So I think question 1 and question 2, though it look different, but the answer remains the same. So what we try to highlight, so can you please shed some lights on Microsoft roadmap to embed success by design as a mandatory steps for all implementation? Because now it is predominantly focused for Fast Track enable, right? Earlier it was $300 licensing cost. Now it is reduced to $100 and all, right? So how can we leverage for across all the implementation?
Now, this is a great question. I will start with a simple answer. How do we make it more known to customer? Is by you guys. You make it possible. Yes, we will sell that during the pre-sales. We'll talk about it. We'll make it that it's eligible. But really, the change will happen when our practitioners, all partners, all freelance consultants, everybody starts to say that there is a methodology. And that doesn't have to be our own methodology. You can take the concepts here and transform into your own methodology. There are a lot of partners who have done that. Start talking about. We'll tell you how we think about expanding this one. Success by design was our starting framework. The way we want to think about is success by product design. How do we build those guardrails within the product? How do we prevent from customers making choices that may not be, or how do we give them guidance? As I said, our fast track success by design is just a collection of patterns and anti-patterns. How do we make sure that the configuration that they're doing in the system matches the patterns we expect and we guide them? That's the nirvana. When we get to that, life will be good. And that's where the software gets created at no cost to us, right? But how do we get to that point in terms of that is there are two things I want to talk about. Today, if you look at the finance and operation, pretty much every engagement, whether they're in the program or not, we get to know them who they are, and we provide them what we call self-service. As they reach the milestone in LCS, they set the date. We send an email to those customers, say, hey, here are the relevant content that you can use. This is coming from Success by Design. Hopefully you have seen it. If you have not seen it, tell me, and then we'll make sure that all of you get it. What we are doing now is we're actually giving the same self-service option to the CRM customers as well. It is an opt-in model because unlike the F&O side, the CE one doesn't quite exactly have that same stringent dev test production, and you go define when the implementation gets completed. We don't have those milestones. It's harder, but we have recognized that this type of thinking is important, so we are bringing that self-service first. The second thing is, as like as Rakesh, you clearly called out, we have brought the 100 to 300K model where partners can engage with us and then take the lead, but we will still support you guys. For those set of customers, we're making what we call fast track implementation portal. So we interact with you guys with using the portal where you don't have to check your emails. We'll communicate through, at the appropriate stages, say, here are the guidance, here is what the next steps you should do. And we are thinking about some intelligent options there to provide you guidance depending on which phase, what products you are using. So that's the type of improvements we're going to do. And I will tell you, and I'm not just saying for the sake of it, really the community makes a difference. If community starts to say that, hey, we have to follow the best practices, we all win when everybody follows the guidelines. It's like, think of this as a, lanes. If everybody stays within the lane, the traffic flow will be really good. When you start going, in other directions, yes, it can work, because we all know, but may not be efficient. That's what we want to get.
I completely agree with you. So I think we have two questions from Rachit. So I'll take that question and then I'll try to take one of the questions from this out of 5 questions. Is that okay, Swamy?
I'm perfectly fine.
Okay, so I think Rachit has a very valid questions. Nowadays, we have seen the platform converges series started going on, right? How can we leverage a one single platform, which is a platform of Power Platform Admin Center, low code, no code, and how can we harness the power of the entire thing and embedding into the financial operation, right? So we have seen a bunch of stuff from Sunil Garg and his team where he tried to showcase, financial operations moving to a the Power Platform Admin Center from an admin perspective, from a developer experience perspective, and then going forward, it's one single for application, the one single app. So with that regard, what Rachit is trying to highlight, how will collaborative application change the way the implementation business solution, and what is the guidance for customers starting their digital transformation journey? I think what is trying to ask currently the Success by Design framework, though it is a proven, is very specific to customer engagement app or a financial operation app. The moment you add a low code, no code, and try to marry the both, how can we leverage the power of Success by Design in line with the collaborative apps?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and you have to think in slightly multiple angles. The framework we have provided, Success by Design, even today it applies to low code, no code platform. The way we engage with the low code, no code platform community is through community engagement, not through direct project level of thing. Think of the CAT team, the customer advisory team we have in the Power Platform, focuses around building the community so that you have the knowledge to go do. They do talk about center of excellence and the best practices. So some of the practices need to come, because I've just come across a place where somebody writes a Power App, but they don't think about performance implication. Yes, they should think about it. So that's one way to think about it. Now let's just think about when we think about a customer experience today, right? Most customers do more than CE, more than F&O. And in almost all cases, they have some element of Power App. Okay, so it's coming there. As we think about it, our notion is that we want to get to what we refer to as one Dynamics, one platform. We have to bring these things together. We bring that in different angles. I'll start with by saying a lot of us, had no integration between F&O and CE. Almost looked like two different products came from Microsoft. It just had only one thing common was Dynamics, nothing else, right? So with the data integrator, we started to bring the ability to say at least you can harmonize the data across the things. It was still complex. It was then we said, hey, there is something more we can do. We brought the dual write. At that dual write, we actually harmonize the concept, not just the process to bring the data. In order to do the process orchestration, you have to harmonize the concept. What is an account? What's a customer? How do you map it? What's an organization unit versus business unit? How do you map it, right? So we had to give you some level of constraint to say, if you are going to do this process orchestration with dual write, you can take these examples to kind of bring together. Then if you think about it, the next thing we do is a lot of those things may not be a bidirectional thing. We just need to get data from one side. So we created the virtual entity. So these are, think of this as steps towards it. The next thing we're going to talk about is how do we bring the entire experience together. So one aspect you mentioned is what Sunil is working on is the bringing the admin experience together. How do you manage the environment? How do you manage the process assets? How do you bring the unification of ALM? Which is a big problem today. It's kind of experienced in a disjointed way, especially as we bring project operations like a module where it has both CE component and F&O components. You can't make this kind of disjointed experience. So how do we improve that? So as we go through this, ultimately over a period of time, because if you imagine, AX has been in business for 25 plus years now. And the amount of assets that everybody has created, you can't overnight change it. We have to do it in an incremental fashion. And our goal is to do it in a way so that you don't have to rewrite anything you have. As you go, you can incrementally adapt and do that. So it is a journey. As we go through that, you will see the unified experience that applies across Power Apps, applies across all of the Dynamics things. So that's the vision. It's a multi-year journey. That's the only thing.
Awesome, Swamy. So I think we are already on top of that. I'll take one question from our list, and then we'll try to quickly wrap it up.
Sure.
So as we have seen the success by design, it's been evolving. I'm witness to that. Whatever the implementation that I have done specific to finance and operation. And nowadays we also seen and many discussion that I had internally, as well as I have seen many videos from Charles and earlier from James, as well as from Satya as well. We try to focus more on the AI and the machine learning, right? How can we democratize these two technologies to the entire world? So how can we manage? I mean, what is your thought process? Is there any plan in future where success by design plan to leverage the AI and machine, not completely, but at least set of aspects based on the learning that we had so far?
That's a great example. There is a work going on. One of the things we are looking at it is today we do manually, right? When we do a go live assessment, there's somebody who's going and checking all of the telemetry data and then saying, I'm going to do it. What we are working on towards today is called what we call telemetry based assessment. We want to automate this whole thing in a way that, it constantly runs and gives you feedback as you go along, not waiting for you to say, hey, I want to do a go live assessment. It keeps telling you the information to say, as you finish your UAT, as you finish your other testing, give you information to say, hey, we noticed this observation. You might want to take this action to minimize this. So that's where we're going to bring back. So two things. One is we're going to make it less interactive between you and us. It make it self-service so that you can do it. Then next, take the self-service into an automated way so that it constantly gives you the feedback. You don't have to initiate. Again, what I said, it is not a human-driven action. It's the system-driven action to tell you, you should do this. That's the change we're going to bring. Is it going to happen? Hopefully in the next 6 months, I can come back and do a demo, but it will, in terms of the entire completion, right? We're going to target certain application first because we know some certain things are easy to detect and give you feedback. But the breadth of the application that we need to cover, it will take time.
Awesome. I think I'll plan that sometime 6 months down the line, once it is not GA, but at least for a public preview, so that community can understand and they can share their feedback, if at all, based on their experiences, not very specific to any projects. I think with that, I'll take a pause here, Swamy, and thank you. Thank you so much for your time and effort, Swamy. It was really a helpful session, if you ask me, because I learned a lot, the whole journey of right from Accepta 3.0 and then finance and operation app. Now we have finance, supply chain, a lot of apps are coming together. it is really a vision that Microsoft has, which is a value-based, the implementation. It's a great vision. Really, thank you for that, Swamy.
No, thank you guys for giving us the opportunity. It's a learning for all of us, including myself. So I know you have a packed learning agenda here. I do want to answer one question here. How do you see India as a market for Dynamics 365? I think that's an important question we should answer. A lot of you guys know that we think of this as different. You might have heard the word room of the house. We have a finance room of the house that takes care of finance, project, and operations. We have a customer experience, that's marketing, sales kind of a thing. As I look at these things, right, every month we look at the customers and who are the top customers. It's an interesting anecdote that hopefully it will surprise you, and it surprised me when I looked at it 4 months back. Every room of the house, the top 10 customer, there's at least one Indian customer. Okay, that's based in India. There's at least one in each room of the house. Okay, that should tell you there can be only 10 countries, but India happens to be in every bucket. Okay, so you should all feel proud. I think the market is prime, and we are going to get some more. When you go deal with your biggest banker, you can thank Dynamics. When you go buy your bikers, you can thank them. When you go buy your clothes, you can thank Dynamics for that. So I'll give you those clues, and you can guess who they are. And I want to thank all of you. Have a great time. Good learning experience. Engage through community, and I look forward to connecting with you guys again.
Thank you. Thank you, Swamy. Thank you for your time and efforts. Really appreciate.
No, take care. All the best.
Yeah. Thanks.